Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. Today I'm doing the stat show for May, covering all the tournament stats for the global games of Kill Team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the stats. Do you like them, not like them, all that kind of stuff. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as an affiliate link at Element Games, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, once again, back with the May stats. So this is all the tournament stats from Best Coast pairings. And, you know, that comes with the same flaws and drawbacks. So we only have data from Best Coast pairings. We will have some anomalous data because effectively, you know, Felgor's Ravagers and the Hearthkin Salvagers weren't on BCP on the weekend of their release. So there were some events that didn't use those factions. So there's going to be some erroneous data likely there, and that's pretty much it. You know, like if we didn't get data from, if you didn't use BCP, but remember, if you have events that you run offline, like they don't use Best Coast pairings app, if you let me or Hot Sauce Teddy know, we can add the stats. But let's get into it, where we'll be looking at May, and then I'll also be looking at the April and May stats, because that's what effectively Games Workshop will use to balance the game. So let's go ahead. All right, so for the May results, oh, wow, look at these lovely stats. We have Galapox, 62%. I think this is 5 or 6 months in a row now, which is completely fine. Fast Talk and Kinban, oddly at 62%, out of nowhere. Oddly with 3.2%, which is good usage. Felgor's Ravagers. Oh, look, there's 62% with 3.2% usage as well. Interesting. And then we've got Void Dancer Troop at 4.3 at 59%. There we go. That's nice and healthy. Vet Guard dropped down to 53%. Breach is up 52, rising up from their big blip they had last month. And then you've got Hand of the Archon at 52%, holding their own. And then Phobos dropped down to 50 from 55. You know, we've got like one Inquisitor player or something, so they're like 50%, but that's from like hardly any data. Corsairs, Intercession, holding around 50. Intercession now like a 13% usage rate, which is just insane. And then we've got Novitiates at 50%, doing much better than they did last month. Commandos, now more popular than Legionary for 2 months in a row with 50%, well, 49%, so doing really well. Hierotech Circle, 49%, doing well. Wormblade at 49%, and you've got Blooded at 48%. And then closing that down the bottom, we've got Blooded at 46%, we've got Kazakin at 46%, and we've got Star Striders at 45%. Legionary have actually dropped down to just 45% as well. Oddly, Chaos Cults are at 43.8%, but it's from like 3 games. So Pathfinders have actually risen up to 42.6%, so 43%, and Hunterclade dropped down to 42%. Exaction Squad have actually gotten a bit worse, doing 39%, and then we've got Hearthkin Salvagers and Warp Coven at effectively 37% each. So that's really interesting for general results. Now we'll go into GT Plus results, which are rounds, tournaments with 4 more rounds and 16 more players. So we have Crew, 69%, which is nice, but also weird. Galapox at 64%, Novitiates going to 63%, and then we have Felgor's Ravagers, 63%. Oh, it looks like they're a problem in both tournament formats. I wonder who could have predicted that. And then we have Phobos Strike Team at 57% for GT Plus results. And then, you know, you've got Imperial Navy Breaches, Void Dancer Troop, Corsairs, Hierotech Circle, Hand of the Archon, and Kazakin, as well as Blooded holding around 50%. Vet Guard are down to 50% as well. Wormblade still holding their own. Pathfinder's actually at 46%. And then below 45%, we have Warp Coven, oddly Legionary, and then Hunterclade, Hearthkin Salvagers, and Elucidine Star Striders and Exaction Squad with a horrendous 10% win rate. I think the interesting one is Elucidine and Star Striders, because they're doing much better overall. When you look at 4-round events, they're actually not doing well for this month. Last month they were doing really well. Then we've also got Demons, Compendium Demons at 70% and then 75%. But once again, this is from like 3 or 4 games, so you know the Compendium results aren't really reliable. But interesting spread for what we have for May. Then if we look at the basic ARS table, you got the results down in numbers. So the main issue here, we still don't have placement data. We're still struggling to get that since BCP kind of changed their base code. But once again, 2,700 games altogether, 2,500 of those are actually bespoke games. So we still only have about 200 compendium games. So interesting, we can actually see the numbers instead of the percentages for usage rate. So if we go to look at Felgor's Ravagers, they got 90 players, so like 90 to 110 is a decent range to go off of for where we can get reliable results. So they've won 51 games, drawn 8 and lost 30. So the only issue is we don't actually have tournament wins for them. I know I've contributed 1 win for them, but as I said, because it's the downside, because we're actually missing tournament placement, it's really hard for us to track who's winning what event unless we go through all of the events, which is kind of too much work. But at least this is just breaking it down into numbers. I think Intercession have been holding at 350 for a while now, which has cemented them. Commandos really jumping up to 216 games. Legionary dropped down to 205. So it seems like Legionary players have either gone to Commandos or like absorbed into Intercession or other teams. Hand of the Archon are actually doing much better this month compared to how they did last month, which is good to see. Maybe they just had a bad month, as well as Imperial Navy Breaches. Like, Breaches still are really popular with 141 games. And then Hierotech Circle also at 150. So they're really popular. Unfortunately, Hearthkin Salvagers are like 35 games. Exaction at 37. Chaos Cultists once again sneaking in there, basically on the last week, as well as Inquisitor Agents. But still decent results from what we can see. Now, for the size of the meta, May is actually being the first month where we've seen an actual drop compared to previous months, because we've either had number of players down or number of events down. This is the first month where we've had both down, but even then, it's only by a little bit. So if you look, it's only slightly down for number of players for April, and then it's only slightly down for the number of events. But May was kind of a quiet month because we had so many events in April, but it's still doing really well compared to where the game started out, and in that odd December drop, at least for events. But we still have good growing number of players and events, and more places around the world are playing Kill Team, which is great to see. And then once again, we've got the scoring analysis. Somebody's probably going to leave this for every time we do like quarterly reviews. But the game has kind of stabilized out. The average points scored hasn't increased too much. It's actually effectively increased by 1 point, maybe 2 at times. So it looks like the change to scoring actually hasn't changed, and everyone's kind of getting the same points when they lose. It's only people have started to score more when they win. Interesting change, because, in the last balanced data slate for secure and capture increased how many primaries you can get by 4, but hasn't really done that much to change the overall scoring system from what we can gather based on game results. So this is the win rate graph. So remember, green is good, 45 to 55%. Yellow, in either way, either like warning signs, maybe needs a nerf or needs a buff. Above 60% is like danger zone, and below 40 is danger zone. So we still have quite a solid meta. As you can see, Intercession have kind of just solidifying how popular they are, but Commandos and Legionary have both gotten less popular this month, but Commandos are doing better overall. We've also got Kroot way up there at the top, overshadowed by the Galapox Infected, and then below them is still in the 60% range of Felgor's Ravagers. So it's kind of good. We only have 4 teams above 55%, and it's... Once again, the lower teams have kind of gotten worse, but Pathfinders have at least picked up. So it's mainly Warp Covenant, Exaction Squad, and Hearthkin Salvagers who are doing badly this month. But Hearthkin, it's kind of weird. They haven't had that many players, so maybe too early. But yeah, so it's an interesting look. So now these are the quarterly results. So this is for the April and May data sets. So effectively, if Games Workshop are using our stats, or even if they're not, this is the data they're going to use when it comes to the June balanced data slate. So We have Galapox affected once again above 62% with a decent usage rate. I think I would get weird when we come to one of these quarterly reviews or monthly reviews and I don't see Galapox above 60%, and I'm just going to go, oh my gosh, maybe they're actually going to get some kind of adjustment. Because when a team has spent, I think like 7 out of 8 months above 60% and like they still won't get properly like adjusted, it's just kind of ridiculous. So I just find it hilarious that they're just still there. And we got Void Dancer Troop, who also are effectively at 60%, which, you know, is just funny. But look, we got Felgor's Ravagers. They might get something. I don't think Felgor's Ravagers will be adjusted because they've come out too soon. And, you know, maybe they won't. Maybe a team coming out to 60% is fine. Vet Guard, though, 55, so 56% effectively. Because, you know, remember, we rate draws as half. Is at a 1 point. So if GW rate them as 1 point, they will be way above 55%. But we've got a pretty much healthy meta. If you look at anything below 45%, Chaos Cultist, just ignore. Novitiates will be fine. So we actually want something below 44% is a good range to look at what will be adjusted. So we can see Exaction Squad, Warp Coven, Pathfinders, and Hearthkin Salvagers. So I could see Hearthkin Salvagers maybe getting some kind of buff. Warp Coven, definitely need a buff. Exaction Squad do need a buff. Pathfinders, just leave them alone. I know they technically qualify for a buff, but leave them alone. Into the Dark is almost gone. Just leave Pathfinders alone, please, I beg you. And then if we look at the GT Plus results, where apparently like GW focus more attention to, you can see Galapox infected at 64%, which is completely fine. Fastalker Kinband, oddly at 58%. Void Dancer Troop at 58%. Veteran Guardsman at 57% with a good usage rate, you know, 5.4%. And then we basically have most of the factions within 55 to 45. If we look at anything below 43% and below, we've got Hunterclade at 43, but I think they're fine. Hand of the Archon, this is the interesting one, right? For longer events, they're at 43%. So maybe. Pathfinders 39%, and then we've got Hearthkin Salvagers at 31 and Exaction Squad at 29. So they've actually done really bad when it comes to long format events, but they're actually doing pretty good when it comes to normal events. So if GW paid more attention to GT Plus results, we would see adjustments for Galapox, maybe Felgor's, Kroot, Void Dancer Troop, and Veteran Guardsman. And then if we were going to see buffs based on underperforming teams, Warp Coven would actually be fine, and so would Wormblade. And I think they would leave Hunterclade alone, and they'd probably leave Hand of the Archon alone. So what we'd probably see are buffs of Pathfinders, maybe Hearthkin Salvagers, and Exaction Squad. Now, once again, I will happily go on the record saying, please don't buff Pathfinders. But this is like some cursed monkey's paw. Maybe we'll finally get nerfs to Veteran Guardsman, Void Dancer Troop, and Galapox Infected, actually like substantial nerfs. And then as a like monkey paw effect, they buff Pathfinders. But it's interesting. And the key thing I actually want to highlight is most of the factions are actually in the healthy range, which is really good to see. And we've got decent usage rates. And we have pretty much mirrored results when you've gotten GT Plus and normal results, which is good to see. And once again, this is just the quarterly win rate graph, just shown in the quarterly format. So we've got a actually pretty healthy meta with only 4 overperforming factions, with a lot more underperforming, but remember, some of those are brand new. But generally we've got a really good meta, so it's not too bad, and I think the game is in a good spot apart from the 3 most recent kill teams. So overall, for the May data, tournament stats along with the quarterly review, I think we're in a good spot. Once again, Felgor's Ravagers. Who would have guessed it? What kind of person would have been able to foresee them doing really well in their first month? But you know, I still think the meta looks pretty good, and even when you look at the quarterly data, we've got some good data to go off of, and nothing has been that dominating outside of the persistent Galapox Infected and Void Dancer Troop. Maybe those 2 teams will finally see a proper nerf. Finally, maybe. I mean, the interesting one, like being serious, is actually the Crute. They did so well in May, it has actually warped their overall results. Whereas Veteran Guardsmen had a really great April, but they kind of dropped in May. So it's kind of evened them out, but on GT Plus results, put them over the edge in terms of, you know, being within acceptable ranges. And the weirdest one for me is like Exaction Squads didn't do that. Like, they looked okay, but overall they're actually not doing that great. And even Hand of the Archon, they had a really bad April, but then May was okay, and it kind of just saved them, which maybe means just they had a really bad first month of April. And once again, we have this thing in the stats where people go, oh, a faction's underperforming, so I'll go play it, and then it kind of does better. If that makes sense. Whereas, like, if a faction's doing good, players kind of like go away or flock to it, and it kind of the people are reacting to the stats in a way, but it's not like single players are. So it's interesting what the stats show. I still think, once again, we have a fairly healthy meta. We just have generally 4 overperforming kill teams. Last month it was 3, and still some underperforming factions, but not as much as we've had previously. Once again, it's all good. But that's pretty much it for this stat show. Remember, thanks goes to Hot Sauce Teddy. It's all down to him. So if you see him like on my Discord and stuff, remember to give him thanks, because we wouldn't be able to do this without him. And yeah, thanks to everyone at home playing using Best Coast pairings. But that's pretty much it from me today. Remember, I have an article version of this down in the episode description below. Either when this video goes up or eventually, we'll have all the images, so you don't have to scroll through my videos. But remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the stats. Do you agree, disagree, like what you see, don't like what you see? Let me know. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description for free below, as well as an affiliate link to Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Sam, Nicholas, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Kenzie, John Thomas, Eric, Captain Murder, Dad of Goldens, Ben, Average Joe 27, and Arthur. And then for my veterans of the crew, I have Samja. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. Really cool. Teddy got the stats done. It's great. He does great work. I need to actually get some more videos done. And now the stats are out, I can actually do some interesting videos. I thought I'd do something funny when Felgor's Ravagers stats came out, but I was just like, I love it. I'm so happy. It's just funny. But I'll have more stuff up soon. And if you're in London, I'll be at a tournament on Saturday. I have to figure out what team I'm going to use, but you'll love the video coming on Thursday. It's a fulfilling prophecy. We shall see. But until next time, remember, no matter what the stats say, always thank Hot Sauce Teddy. And remember, there's always a chance as long as you can roll a crit.